welcome to this week's HomeKit Show. This is a special recording for the event that's taking place next week, which is the Worldwide Developers Conference, where we're expecting some improvements to HomeKit. But it's even more special because I've got some really cool dudes and some really nice guys from the world of HomeKit and Smart Home. So first of all, got Andrew from Apple Insider, who's actually got his own podcast called HomeKit Insider, and you might want to check that out. There's also Chris from HomeKit Geek, and this guy has got a HomeKit YouTube channel, which is full of content for different devices. And there's also Eric as well, who's a HomeKit YouTuber, and he has got his own blog. And finally, there is Shane from Shane Creates, and again, another HomeKit YouTuber and someone that is experienced in automations. You might want to check his video out. Just a quick shout out for Dustin from My HomeKit Home. He was meant to be attending this episode, but unfortunately, due to technical issues, he's unable to attend. So don't forget to check out his channel and also check out his video, which is on what we expect from HomeKit next week. What we want to talk about this week, guys, is the features that we're expecting from HomeKit. And the first one is a feature called Night Shift. And this is something I think Chris is familiar with from using the LifeX product. So, guys, what do you think about that one?
I am so excited about this one. Night Shift. So home automation, I'm an engineer by trade. So when I'm thinking about my home automation things, I'm not just like blinky lights. I'm actually trying to understand how I can use lights, automation, sound, air treatment, everything. I have like design goals in mind. Light has an absolute effect on your health, and the type of light you're using at different times of days definitely affects your circadian rhythms, affects your sleep patterns. The better sleep you have, the healthier you are, the better your life quality, all that kind of stuff. I have been forced, as I like to call it, into paying a premium for a particular vendor, LifeX, because they have by far, in my opinion, the best sunset sunrise. So basically your lights come on in the morning at a certain time, gradually dimming or gradually increasing in brightness, get up into from a warmth standpoint, all the way up to about a 7,000 Kelvin for a bright blue daylight, and then dip down in the evening. And that trains our bodies, from the caveman days. The light starts to go red, we get a little more sleepy, everything's good. Right? Unfortunately, in the world that we live in now, we end up in this situation where everybody turns on their lights. You've got one color light in your living room, and if it's the wrong color temperature, you're telling your body it should be awake and out, hunting and gathering at that point. So you're basically, even though HomeKit is an open ecosystem and you've been able to have all these different lights, you're basically forced into choosing a particular vendor. So the only other vendors I know who do this, VocalLink has a really good version of this, or a decent version of this on the LS2. And Philips Hue can do this as well. But again, you're always going to be stuck in an ecosystem. For me to be able to grab an entire room or a schedule for my whole house and nail this down for the whole house, this is awesome. This is wonderful. I've seen people do this. I think 8 different automations were required to do this from a manual standpoint, and it shouldn't be this hard. Like that's why we're in Apple. That's why we do HomeKit. It shouldn't be this hard. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, for me, I agree with everything Chris said. I'm really excited about this one too. I haven't gone quite into those depths, but some of my automations that I've set up just with NFC tags and different things around the house. In fact, some of my videos, you can even see where it'll check the time of day and change the warmths, of the lights based on the time of day. So to be able to have that capability right in HomeKit just to make it easy, you can do all your lights that way. I will just be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that too, because that's something I like to do a lot around my house, is change the color, the temperatures based on the time of day. So yeah, that'll be a great one.
I'm a big believer in, I'm not a voice first house. The house should adapt. The house should sense what's going on. And that's why I'm in the HomeKit camp, because it's got by far, out of the big 3, the most capabilities to be able to modify all these things. And I think what we're missing is just context and the ability to do these more advanced automations, right? So I think we're going to talk more about context later, I think. But, to me, that's the big deal here.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew? What's your thoughts on this particular possible feature?
It seems like a no-brainer as far as Apple's concerned. I mean, they've implemented actual night shift on our phones, they've got it on our computer monitors, and if they've already got all these lights built into HomeKit, it seems pretty straightforward to be able to implement the same thing just as simply and easily throughout any of the HomeKit lights that you have that can change that warmth level.
And Eric?
I totally agree. It's definitely a needed feature, and it'd be nice to have. And like, I just want to set it and forget it. I don't want to be using shortcuts or automations. I just want to do what needs to do automatically.
And what do you think this will do to the companies that offer this type of feature at the moment? We've already seen this with other Apple products that come out several years or even sometimes 5 years later, and you've got a product that comes to market that's pretty much exactly the same as what's on the market with somebody else, and then you see this happen. Because one of the unique features, Chris, you and pointed out of buying and paying a premium for that product was because of that feature. But is it going to cause damage to another brand?
Yes, it is. It's going to lower the value that they bring as a standalone brand, and I think that's just the nature of products, right? What it's going to also do, though, is it's going to force them to re-up their game. This is the whole innovation cycle, and I think that overall is going to be a good thing for all of us. There are, from a LifeX perspective, and I'm a huge LifeX fan, so anything that I say about them, I've invested my own dollars and more than a couple dollars in that, done a bunch of projects, but I wish they would expose more of the scenes, dynamic scenes into HomeKit, right? So there's things that they offer right now to other ecosystems they don't offer to HomeKit. If they want HomeKit users, maybe the sunrise sunset, the night shift isn't the feature that's going to get the HomeKit camp anymore. They're going to have to up their game, and honestly, I think that's a good thing for everybody. Right? Yeah, it's going to suck, but then that it's a very clear do better. Right?
Yeah, we're seeing that with the Cara, or however you pronounce them, that they're coming with a HomeKit enabled smart lock for Europe, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on them European manufacturers. They are expensive. HomeKit locks, and there's a lot of mechanics in there, and there's probably a lot of R&D go into it, but I don't think they need to be that expensive. And I think it's only going to be good for consumers and us who buy these products. As companies drive down, bring more innovation in, and all of those things. So I think it's really good.
Yeah, and for those of us, I don't know how long you guys have actually been in a HomeKit camp, but if anybody purchased the Fabaro flood sensor, 4 years ago, you could buy a camera for what that thing cost 4 years ago. You could actually buy 2 UV cameras nowadays for what would that cost. So that, I think that's going to be good for all of us, right? It's just the cycle of innovation, and just do better, right? From a company standpoint, do better. Like, it's only good.
So anyone got any more thoughts on that, or we exhausted the night shift? I think there's only so much you can talk about light. Well, I know, Chris, you probably could talk about light all day long.
Guilty.
As well as air purifiers.
And air purifiers, yep.
Okay, so the other feature we're expecting is some improvements to HomeKit Secure Video. I know we're going to talk later on about some of the features we would like to see, and hopefully some of those will be HomeKit Secure Video related. But one of the features that they seem to be coming out with, and again, it's from a manufacturer that already does this, which is facial recognition. It's going to be interesting, though, how Apple do this and how they implement it, and how they're going to use that facial recognition. Are they going to use it in a way that it alerts you when a certain person comes home, to be able to say, I know your kid's home and nothing's happened? I don't know. What's everyone else think? I've got several thoughts around it. Shane, have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm excited about anything HomeKit Secure Video. I love the feature, and I think they're going to continue to improve it. And this is probably just one step of many, I'm sure, I hope, over the next, who knows, few years or whatever. I think kind of what you say is probably what they'll do. You get notifications now using HomeKit Secure Video, a person is detected on your front porch or an animal is detected. So I could see them doing something like you said, little Johnny, is detected in the living room or whatever, something like that, which could be cool for sure. And it just, them adding features to this is just going to make it more and more solid over time.
Eric, I know you've been playing recently with the Eufy indoor cams. and HomeKit Secure Video. How do you think that will play out with that new feature?
I'm more excited about where the facial recognition would be more for like a doorbell, where as people are approaching, you'll know immediately who it is. It will announce who it is on a HomePod or on your phone. That's where I think facial recognition really comes in play. Being inside the house, I don't want to track people or anything. I'm not even a big fan on cameras inside the house.
Dude, I want to cheat at hide and go seek.
Yeah. So that's where I'm looking at it as, or more people outside. And if I can identify the person outside and not worry about who they are, then that's where the facial recognition is more beneficial to me.
While I was researching the Netimo indoor camera, I actually read your review, Andrew. One of the things that I noticed is what I think you noticed this. I'm sure it was you. If things came on the TV, it would pull them up as an unknown face. At one evening when I was first testing it, I had there was the local news on, and there was loads of politicians kept popping up, and I was looking and thinking, what's going on? So Andrew, in terms of, he seems to have gone. I think he might have gone for a swim in that lake in the background. So in terms of your thoughts around that, I think Apple will hopefully get it right, but I think for an indoor camera, I found the facial recognition not so good. I would think it probably better as Eric said, as a doorbell.
I've actually tested facial recognition on the Nest Hello, and it was actually a useful feature. So I would definitely like to see that with the HSV.
And another cool feature too regarding like the Netatmo, I'm not sure how you say that one. But one feature you can do with that is if you do use it indoors, you can have it not record known people. So, that could be something that maybe HomeKit Secure Video could possibly do, one day. Just like you can, set it to record, people and not pets and not vehicles. Maybe you could set it to record only unknown people and not, known family members. So that's maybe a potential with that feature as well.
Andrew, you got any thoughts on this? Because I have thoughts.
I have a lot.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, we can come back to mine a little bit because half this is like new features. It's like stuff that I want them to fix that we're kind of expecting, and then there's like the millions of things that I want to see just HSV do a whole lot better. But I mean, the facial recognition would be a great start for that kind of stuff. I think they do it like the best part about the HomeKit Secure Video is the privacy modes. That's always worked just spot on for me. Of being able to get home, and as I get home, it switches into privacy mode, just detecting activity and motion and all that to automate my life. Always like see the alert come in on my home screen, like switched status because I'm gonna arrive home. I like those a lot, but it can definitely do a lot more, and being able to kind of know, like, who got home, if it's your kid's getting home, and being able to get that alert that your kid got home or something like that, like they did have on the Netatmo one, stuff like that would be really good to see actually implemented through HSV versus just having to choose a specific vertical or camera brand to get that to happen.
For me, the Netatmo on the facial rec, on why it is the way it is, I give them a pass on the quality as how good it is, because they're doing everything internally on the camera. All their facial rec was happening within the house, not sending anything to the cloud, and they've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, right? So that camera had those capabilities a long time ago. They don't have, from a data science standpoint, they don't have the same access to the entire huge amount of facial data that Apple's got at this point, right? So Apple's always going to do a better job at this. I totally have always loved the fact that it says, hey, Chris is home, my girlfriend's home, my kids, all those kinds of things. I get a teenager that sometimes it confuses me and him now, right? So he's growing up, so that's painful to see sometimes, but I would love to see, getting back to that context thing. Context is king. And right now, if you look at, I don't know that I want to see personalized automations too much, because then you get into the, well, who's the boss, right? If I walk in the room and Shane walks in the room and we're roommates, who wins? Whose automations win at that point, right? That's a problem. But if I want my security system to be tagged, when I leave the house, whenever nobody's home, automatically turn the security system on. What happens if I leave my 11-year-old, 12-year-old home and he doesn't happen to have a phone? Or what happens if he turns his Wi-Fi off and now the security system turns on, arms itself, right? So I think there's a lot of things they could do with facial rec as far as tying it into automations that could be really, really interesting and powerful. The other thing about HSV that I will say is, can people just support it for real? Because I'm getting really tired of like, oh, it's this awesome thing, and how many cameras are there that actually support, that you could buy right now and put in your house, fully supported HSV? There's the NetAtmo indoor.
Maybe?
No, 2, I think.
Circle View.
Circle View and then NetAtmo.
Circle View, you can buy Eve Cam. Pre-orders have opened for that.
Not shipping yet though, right?
Eufy's been rolling out.
Has Eufy actually?
I believe they're shipping very soon.
Yeah, so, but that's kind of my point, right? Is we all talk about it as if it's all here. And again, HomeKit Secure Networking, we can throw that in the same bucket, right? Something else, I don't think we've even talked about that one. I would love to have that all over the place, but this is a case of a lot of people talking about it. We need partners to start delivering in the ecosystem and actually roll things out. I want the Circle 2 to come out of beta. Like, just declare it there, right? That would be nice. Who was the first HomeKit secured? I don't know. Is it Circle 2? Because they've been in beta now forever. Yeah, I was telling Eric before we started here, my comment before you guys got on was, I'm in the mood where I promise to be nicer if you promise to be smarter. That's the mood I'm in right now, guys. So, this is what it is.
Yeah, there's no swearing. It's a family program, this, apparently.
Yes.
So that's pretty much what I think we've heard about in terms of expected HomeKit features. We could be surprised. We could get all various different things. We could also get a rebrand and rebrand HomeKit to something like Apple Home, because HomeKit is more the it's the
SDK.
It's the thing. Yeah, it's the thing that makes it all work. Whereas I don't know if that's going to happen personally, but let's start with Andrew. In terms of, because I know you've been itching to tell us all about the things that you would like to see improved from a HomeKit perspective. And over to you.
Yeah, there's quite a few things. I know we all have our list and our kind of pet peeve things that we've been watching for, and we were going through stuff ahead of this thing. And I was kind of worried because I've got 8 things on my list, so we don't obviously have to go through all of this, but I can mention them, and then everyone else can talk about them as they go through their stuff too. But a lot to do with HSV. I think their detection right now is very iffy. I would really like to see more improvements on the object detection, the AI or machine learning or whatever you kind of want to lump that in as, because I am tired of seeing, my cat in the basement being called a human, and I'm getting, people detections from in my basement. Vehicle detection is pretty decent, but it's really the person versus the animals and stuff like that has always just been super hit or miss. So I'd love to see that better. I'd love to see some third-party apps supporting HSV. I know right now that's not limited or not available to third-party developers, so I want to see that open up with the SDK, because HSV is pretty decent, looking at it in the Home app, but I feel like being able to see what Eve can do, or Aaron Pierce can do with any of his apps, just to implement a better viewer for all of that content coming in. I want to see actual toggle support, so we don't have to make these conditional rules that determine when our lights come on and off based on state and pressing and everything. So actual toggle support for buttons, switches, all that would be phenomenal to see. I'd like to see Mac support for HomeKit apps, so we're not limited with Apple's garbage Catalyst HomeKit app that we're kind of dealing with at the moment. So I want to see more third-party app support there. I know. And then finally, I just want to see some new categories. I know we've got the main stuff covered, but even things like vacuums, this is super niche, but pet feeders. I have a pet feeder and I have to go through this third-party app, and it's kind of, again, garbage. And I'd really like to, I know, it's part of your home. I feel like there's so many out there that are already connected and everything. And I feel like it would just be really nice to be able to see that, being able to schedule it just like I schedule a water for outside, and being able to do that would be a really nice little thing to kind of just see it all in, one app. So that's it. That's all I'm looking for.
I'm not going to give you pet feeders.
Wow.
I vacuum cleaners I'm okay with, but the next thing you're going to be asking for pet recognition too. Tell me between my black cat and my white cat, right? Let's
Just the
lower
fact that it'll
expectations.
tell you a cat, I'd be happy with.
Yeah.
If it could tell you that's a cat and not a person.
I'd love a pet feeder for our cat. It just, like in the morning, it is literally like the person in a bar at 2 a.m. that's still not pulled. And it's literally just coming around. And it's like, and as soon as you feed it, she does not want to know. So I'd love to be able to just automate it, or just be able to do it from the bed, press a button, releases the food, she's sorted, and then I can get on with the rest of the morning without thinking. It'd just be cool.
So my two dogs are perpetual eaters, so I just leave it out all day. So I want like stepped it up one level, and like I want the dog treat thrower. That way I can be at work and like I just want to play with it. Just entertain them a little bit during the day.
So one thing that I want to that you mentioned, Andrew, that I think is important, that I would love to see is a switch, right? Because we have buttons.
Yeah.
But a button's not a button, not a switch in how we as human beings think about it. It's a conditional controller that allows you to activate a scene as an automation, right? Which is not the same as on-off, right? So that toggle thing, I think, is a really interesting to be able to, like, you can take a plug and change the personality of the plug into a fan or a light, right? And it does the automatic groupings in the background, but being able to turn it to just a toggle on-off and assign it to a group or a light would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
The only thing that I would like to see in HomeKit Secure Video is more cameras, especially when you're reviewing them as well. I know there's lots of people out there that might have 5, 6, 7 cameras, but a couple of weeks back, I hit my limit and I was having to move cameras around, and it's not ideal for a consumer to, especially when you might have several cameras. I think it'd be great to see them increase the limit. I'd even be willing to pay a little bit extra just to get more cameras.
It's an interesting thing, right? How many people, present company excluded, and we'll take Aaron Pierce and his like 10 camera USB strip, off of this. How many people have 5 cameras, right? I think that if I'm going to give Apple a break a little bit. I don't know. It's a hard one, right? Apple, we're in the Apple camp because they deliver the higher end stuff that you can't necessarily get elsewhere. So in that sense, give me more cameras because I want to spend more money. But does the average consumer
I see it all. Yeah,
do you think 5 is enough?
I see it on Reddit where
I don't
someone
think that's
very
enough.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I know it's different. I've got 4 in this room now that sat on the side. But then I've got 5 actually working outside, and I've seen quite a lot of comments on the HomeKit Reddit where people have been talking about how do I get more cameras, and I think one of the things they've been saying is about linking up your iCloud accounts or doing something crazy there. And I just think, why should people have to do that? It's but then there must be a limit because of the hardware from a Apple TV processing it. Maybe that's what the limit is.
That's what we've always like hypothesized on, at Apple Insider, just the fact that it's like, because everything is being processed locally, the object detection is all local. So is it your HomePod or your Apple TV, the part that's limiting that? And then we just kept hoping, like, okay, well, what if you had multiple? What if you got 3 Apple TVs and a HomePod? Would that be something that would allow you like maybe 5 cameras per home hub and being able to do that? Just something. I don't think I have a lot of cameras for, like, considering what I do is not why I have a lot of cameras. I just have an odd like split level house. So we've kind of got this whole upper level as well as like a lower level to all cover with cameras. And between that and the basement and everything, it ends up being at least 5 that I have on HomeKit Secure Video, and I still have plenty of like random dead spots that I do want to cover. And cameras are getting cheaper. We are seeing the dedicated ones like the Circle View and the Eve Cam, but then the Eufy Cam 2 and those are getting a lot cheaper. And when they have ones that are working with the hub that are wireless, like if Arlo would ever go down that route, but at least Eufy is, those are the ones where I can see it because people are buying those hubs and the cheaper wireless cameras to attach a bunch to that hub. I mean, they sell, the Arlos and those in like packs of 4. So if you have at least that many, you're already limited just right out the gate there. So I feel like there's people who might want to do more than that for regular houses, especially if they're doing those wireless cams like the Eufy ones or Arlo ever did.
I've got my review cams, but in the house, I've got 3. externally, I've got four. I've got one for each side of the house, right? So just that puts me over the limit. But I guess it comes down to in the house, what do I actually want? What are the cameras going to do? If it's security alone, I don't know that I care that much. And now if you tied that from a context standpoint and provided more value from the camera, I'd be willing to put more cameras in the house. Right? So it just becomes a question to me as to what direction do they go in? Right? I would love to see more camera options actually really supported, definitely. More what we've seen in general is I think Eufy is going to drive some interesting things with their pricing model. That's going to force other prices to come down. And it's also going to force a couple of the, I would guess probably it's going to be Eve, and I think the Ecobee Cam is going to surprise some people. The aesthetic of that, I think those things you're going to see some interesting stuff that they're going to differentiate themselves in their own software. But it's going to be interesting to see.
By the way, since we're talking HomeKit cameras, I forgot another minor thing. I want zones, like actual zones in like Apple's HomeKit ecosystem. I know every camera supports them in their own apps, but HomeKit Secure Video just completely neglects that, as well as the ability to really fine tune your like buffer zone of where you are. Like I've had people complaining to me on Twitter and email like that their cameras are kind of wigging out versus like their exact location. So the camera thinks they're away, then home, then away, then home. If you could, adjust that radius to be a little bit larger and be able to use zones, it would make those more capable as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think zones are a must. I think they'll have to add that eventually. I could be wrong, but hopefully it won't take too long.
It seems like a basic thing, the fact that everyone has it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Exhausted cameras, I think there's loads of things that we could bring, but Chris, I can see your head about to explode with the amount of things you want to talk about.
Oh, there's so many. But you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about what Shane wants to talk about. Shane has one that I'm dying to talk about.
What I'll do is re-edit this and I'll say one more thing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So for me, the one thing I want to see, and I've been wanting to see this since the HomePod first came out, is a HomePod Mini. And it's the easy one for me, but I actually waited a long time before getting a HomePod simply because I already had a good, surround sound system in my living room. So I didn't need good quality speakers in there because I already had them. And I have, open floor plan. And this is where I wanted a smart speaker, so I didn't need, to spend $300 or $350 when they first came out, I think it was, for a HomePod. So I think for them to offer a HomePod Mini is just for people like that. And then also people who want to put, a smart Siri speaker in multiple rooms, like many of us do. This is just, critical to get HomePod into more homes. That's why, Amazon and Google are leading by far in the smart speaker race, is because they're affordable and your more average users are buying them. And to get HomeKit, I think this will get HomeKit into more homes, which will just further the platform in the long run, if that makes sense. I don't know. Do y'all agree with that?
I think Amazon and Google have convinced everybody that you want to be able to ask your house what to do, and that's home automation.
Yeah. And
that's crap. Can I say crap? That's family friendly.
I'll beep it out.
Okay. That's doo-doo. I love the ability to have voice. So I run in a parallel system, right? I've actually got Amazon, Google, and Apple all running all at the same time, plus Home Assistant, right? So I know I'm not the only one who's doing that. And the reason I'm doing it is because I've got the house should detect what you want it to do, but there's some times where what you want it to do on average, you don't want to do for that specific occurrence. And in that case, I want to be able to say, hey, turn the lights on or turn the lights off. I don't want to have to remember what the complicated naming convention was. And maybe I can remember that it was. I can tell you my girlfriend can't, and I can tell you my kids can't. So that context piece that the minis would add is that just takes it to a whole other level of how you can your house should be able to react the way you want it to. It should be proactive. But when you have an exception, you don't want to have to remember all the different names. And I've seen people going with naming conventions for individual light bulbs. Like that would be, I can't even imagine trying to keep that in your brain. Right. So I totally agree that having the HomePod Mini, I would replace all of my Amazon stuff up almost overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be able to do that. The other thing is once they're in the Google system, that's what they're looking for is Google or Amazon. That's going to be the next purchase. And I think that also takes it down because if you look at, I think Amazon in probably last year, you can finally do you can do automations between vendors based on a motion sensor or a contact sensor. Google, you still can't do it. So for Google, for instance, you have to have a Samsung SmartThings or something else if you're going to do any of your automation. So it as you start digging into it as a consumer, I am watching my dad go through this right now, and I'm getting like the firsthand phone call, twice a week of why is this like this, and I'm just looking at it really with the things that we accept as the nerds that we are. Normal people are never going to accept, and I think if you like Shane said, if you add that HomePod Mini to what we already have with HomeKit, it would make such a huge difference to the entire smart home industry, not just Apple, but I think it would drive it all forward.
There's so many people that I'm sure would much prefer to get an Apple smart speaker than Amazon or Google, but they don't, simply because of the price. They want a smart speaker, but they're not going to spend $300 on one. So again, just to get it into more homes would further the whole platform, I think, in the long run. So I know in my house alone, I put an iPad on the wall to control HomeKit and all this kind of stuff. It's really cool. I love it. Looks neat. But I partially did that so that my family would be able to go and, turn on lights and everything. They never used it. Never. Still to this day. I'm like the only one that plays with it. But when I got a HomePod, now all of a sudden my kids are using it to turn off all the lights. I'll hear my son shout from upstairs to, turn out all the lights or good night, so they're learning all these things. So your average people will just use it and interact. It's kind of the gateway into the smart home, I think, is the smart speaker for a lot of people. And to have an affordable gateway into HomeKit will just be huge, So my thoughts on that.
I think for me, it really comes down to price. I would love to scatter my house with, low mini HomePods, but that price, if it's, $200, $300, it's just not going to happen. So it really does come down to price. And that way, for people who do want to use a voice first assistant, it makes it a lot easier. If it's $100, you can put them in every room in the house. I don't know if they're going to cost $100, but who knows?
No.
I think that's
what youth is not building them.
I think they should be $100 to get them into that mainstream. I don't know if that'll happen, but that's what we need to see, in my opinion.
Right, because you can get the HomePod now for $199, which I'm sure there's another one coming out. So that one's going to be $299, maybe $350. So where do you guys think the Mini is going to be?
I think the Mini, you're going to get it at $100. I think that's the point where they need to get to.
I'd like to see it lower, but I doubt it. So.
I would love to see it lower. I don't think Apple's going to do it. They're not going to lower the premium right there. Yeah. I think if I put my product management hat on, they're going to try to be twice the price of anybody else and just do a much better job at it. Right. And
that seems like a very Apple entry price. It's not like too low that they're going to dilute their brand and everything. It's still keeping that premium value over a dot, but it's a lot more accessible. Especially if they call it, $99, just that sub 100 price point.
Right.
Yeah. And as they shift to a subscription model for things like iCloud, right, for the HSV, they're moving to the Apple Music. They may be able to subsidize some of it and get below that 100 point. I just don't know that they will, right? They have that perceived quality price point, right? It's reassuringly expensive.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a mistake if they go too high, unfortunately.
I feel like we've already seen it with the regular HomePod. I mean, the fact that it launched so high and then was able to drop down, and the sales that they run on those now. So I think they solved the problem with that really high price point. It would be kind of crazy for them to come back with an even like higher price point for that mini model. And since we're talking about the audio part, can I also throw in my like 2 cents that we need to get like actually be able to link commands? Because I see my wife all the time, hey, Apple Assistant, close the blinds 50% and turn off the mantle lights.
Yes.
You can't like link things together. And it just, I mean, that's part of the context that you're talking about. Like it's really just about being able to say those multiple things. Like there's just those random one-off times. Like if I didn't put something in the scene and I'm like, I wanted to close the blinds a certain percentage and dim the lights to a certain percentage, just anything like that, just multiple things at once would be very much helping that.
That's such a good point. I never thought about that, but I find myself firing off multiple commands.
It takes you 5 minutes.
Annoying. Yeah.
To say it.
It's like speaking to a child. You know, you have to repeat until you get what you want in the end. It's like
one thing at a time. Yeah.
One thing slowly.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't talk about this in the earlier part, but one thing that I am super excited about, you just reminded me of, is there's the rumor in iOS 14 that AirPlay 2 is actually going to stay connected from the Apple TV, that they're making improvements. So I don't know if you guys have tried to set up like a entertainment system using HomePods as your satellite speakers. It's a nightmare. Don't even bother, right? They constantly disconnect. So there's supposed to be huge improvements on that. I think that's another one that's going to be something that I'm excited about.
I've heard, I haven't done that myself, but on that note, another thing that would be great, I'd love to see more connection between the HomePod and the Apple TV. You know, there's a lot of things you can do with like the Amazon assistants as far as controlling your TV that we can't do yet. And, you know, as far as just, you know, hey, play so-and-so on Netflix, things like that. You can do a lot, but there's a lot of limitation there still. So I'd love to see more integration between the two. You know, that is another one.
HomeKit TVs need a big overhaul in terms of what they do. It's great that I can turn it off voice, but being able to open apps or open something within, you know, being able to set a proper movie night or do something with. It doesn't really offer anything. You know, I bought it, was really excited. After 20 minutes, I was looking at it thinking, spent a lot of money on a HomeKit TV.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm talking about really between the Apple TV and HomePod, you know, to me, there should be, that should be very deeply integrated.
Or do you mean Siri and HomePod, or Siri and Apple TV? Right. I look at these things as different things, right? You know, I think this is another thing that I struggle with is people look at the Echo as home automation, and then they compare Madame A with Siri, and then they say that you know, Google is better than Siri, therefore Google is better than HomeKit. Right. So there's this how we've combined it, I think, is
like here's a simple example. I can tell my phone using Siri to turn on subtitles on the Apple TV, I believe, and it works. If you tell the HomePod that, it doesn't work. You know, so there's a lot of those commands that you just want to control what's on the TV with your voice assistant. It's Siri, it's Apple, it's a HomePod. I should be able to do that, but there's a lot of limitations there still. So
I'm just curious, did anybody else know you could do that? Because I'm running to try that afterwards.
Try it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
on the topic
about that.
On the topic of HomePods, I will go next of the things that I want to see. My one wish, if I could just, you know, Jiminy Cricket my way into this, would be please give me the ability to choose which of my available devices is the active home hub. Please. And it all comes back to, as I'll be nice about this, the dumpster fire that has been iOS 13, and the constant, just the quality. I sincerely hope that iOS 14 is going to be very unambitious as far as the features, and that they take a step back and they fix their technical debt. They fix the quality issues they've been having. If you've kind of been watching their internal staffing, there's been a ton of people getting hired into the HomeKit team. So I sincerely hope they fix that. But every time, there's probably been about three dot releases that if your home pod became your home hub, all your personal shortcuts suddenly stopped working. Like, so just let me set it to my Apple TV 4K, right? And I think honestly that might address some of the if their internal system is that only one of your devices can do facial rec at a time, let me pick the one that has the most horsepower, right? If I get a new generation of HomePod, if we see a new one with an A12 chip in it with the machine learning, like that would be a better thing. Let me pick that for, and you know, it gets a little more complicated as far as we're going to have to understand a little bit more about our environments, but at least give me some of those tweaks. And I go back and forth because I want Apple to just, you know, make it easy for me. That's the brand, the value promise of Apple buying Apple products is my laptop just works, right? I'm not going to have to go in and fix everything every 6 months and reinstall it. But we haven't seen that with HomeKit. And I really want the ability to just at least have that select button. You guys agree, disagree?
Yeah, I think for power users, people that want advanced control, I think it goes back to your camera point. Would a lot of people want more cameras? I think it all depends. I'd love to have more control over my HomePod or my HomeKit hub. What's everyone else think?
Yeah, more control is always a good thing. You know, it's nice to give the option for those who want it. You know, maybe don't make it a necessity. Still kind of do the automated thing, but for those who want it, would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, more control is definitely, you know, of a huge benefit to some users, but it's got to be simple for other users also. So it's just got to work out of the box also.
Yeah, it's a balance for sure. And again, like I understand I'm not the typical user, so I understand I might be looking for stuff that not everybody cares about, but for me, it's been something that's just driving me crazy for months.
I had a big issue at one point a while back where some device I got, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a HomeKit button or just some device that I got, and it was just doing some weird things. And turns out to be it was my HomeKit hub. I disabled one of my Apple TVs, so you can kind of control that a little bit. You can't control the HomePods and stuff and really pick, but I disabled one of my Apple TVs and it solved it. So it was definitely a HomeKit hub issue.
You know, the other thing that I would like to see, because, you know, I'm following Andrew's example, I'm grabbing two now. HomeKit Secure networking. Give me something I can use. And again, I know I'm not the normal user. My professional background, I'm a networking engineer by trade. So I understand I don't have normal home user stuff. But Eero being the only one who supports HomeKit Secure networking right now is driving me crazy because I can't use it. That system doesn't support the amount of devices I have on my home network. I actually cannot use it. And I think I'm probably about 190 devices on my Wi-Fi network. So I'm using Ubiquiti currently. No, they're not paying me to say that, but I just have I would love to be able to do HomeKit Secure networking. I love the automated security. I love the way that they've implemented it and thought it through. I just can't use it because I have no options other than Eero. Right? Linksys announced, they haven't delivered. Have you played much with HomeKit Secure networking? Is this something you'd like to see more of, or is it just
I've
me?
not had a chance to play with it yet. Anybody else?
Barely played with it, little bits, just because it is the Eero and it's not the one that we're running in my house. I'm running like multiple VELOP networks, and not only did Linksys announce it coming, but they also only announced it, I believe, for like their tri-band like flagship router, but they have like 50 flipping routers in their lineup, and they're only like committing and announcing HomeKit for one. And even at CES this year, every, you know, big media thing that I had with like all these different router companies, I asked and the answer was always the same. Oh, we're looking into it, and literally no one committing to it.
That one right there?
I think so. It's like AC something. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, they were on sale when Linksys announced, yeah, we're doing it, and then they, within 2 days after me ordering it, went, oh, yeah, maybe not yet. I'm like, thanks. So it's in a box.
Pretty much, but at least that's the one that's going to support it when it's out there. But I'm running two main networks. I'm running a set of 3 of those throughout my house that run all of my smart home stuff. And then my primary devices, my iPad, my iPhone, my Mac, all run on their MX Wi-Fi 6 network, their mesh network of those. But of course, those won't be HomeKit enabled, at least as far as Linksys has said so far. So only like that smart home side, which is really the main important side, considering it's for all those devices. But still, it's a limitation that I don't like it.
My thing is I want to see more accessory restrictions, so I can allow my daughter to have access to HomeKit, but not the entire thing. I don't want her to be able to access the temperature in the house, or maybe some cameras I don't want her to see. But as she's getting older, she's 10 now, but as she's getting older, I want her to be able to control things in the house on her phone through HomeKit, but not have everything. There's got to be some restrictions. And same thing with a guest. If I want to allow my mother-in-law to come over, she probably couldn't figure out most of it. But if I allow her to control the guest room light, as she's laying in bed, she can turn that off, but nothing else, because I don't want to be in bed myself and she's turning off my light. So it's definitely accessory restrictions.
I do like the idea of a room master, right? So that, and just being able to assign like my kids access to a room, right? They get access to that. They can't mess with it. We've all had those problems. Kids playing with the lights. I found my, what did they do? He was probably about 8, 9 years old. And I gave him access to the HomeKit Home, and suddenly I had this new scene that was, it was like radioactive or toxic bomb or something like that. And it caused the light to go green when there was a bodily function in the house from his little brother. Out of nowhere. I'm like, as a dad, I kind of laugh at it, but why did that 9-year-old, to your point, have that kind of control?
Or if I, put an iPad on the wall like Shane has, I don't want everything to be on there. I just want certain things. Like Andrew, you have the Brilliant, where you can control only certain things. You put those 5 lights, so 10 things on that one controller, but that's all it can do. It can't control the entire house. So that'd be cool for HomeKit also.
And one of the things that I see with the Brilliant and also the Akara LCD panel that's coming through, it's great that those types of things are coming through, but it'd be great to see other HomeKit devices exposed to them. Obviously, there's a lot to be done there from an API and all the protocols to be sorted to be able to do that. But it'd be great to see those devices to be able to control, because then it removed the need of sticking up an iPad on the wall. You could have those in different lighting locations and be more accessible for people that are in the home. I think it'd be be really cool.
On that note, why not the equivalent of the Echo Show, but for the HomePod?
That's what I was just going to say. That's what I asked for in my Brilliant review, is like they need to be able to connect to those devices. And I really want an Echo Show type device, or a Google Home Max, or whatever all the different ones are called. But being able to see my devices and control them. I always talk about physical controls, and I love the Brilliant panel, but half my house is run off of Eve devices, and those don't show up at all. And you're just left with like those random things, or trying to tie them to the actual switches. But of course, you don't have like real toggle ability. So you're creating multiple rules based on if they're going on or off, or if you're using the dimmers. And it's like a whole bunch of stuff to worry about. It just needs to be tied together better, and being able to see all the devices and third parties be able to make little, Echo shows would be great.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
You know what? The only, and you just sparked this, the other thing that I've been really just dreaming about lately is just having a dimmer button. Just a dimmer, just a simple, like the same kind of a button, but that I can assign multiple lights to it and just turn it back and forth and have the lights go down 1%, 2%, 3%.
You mean like a dial?
Like a dial, yeah.
Like the Lutron Aurora.
Like a Lutron, like a Lutron Aurora, but that would allow me to assign a group of lights to it, a light or multiple lights, and being able to just turn it up or down, right? Because unless I'm using an actual switch, like a Lutron Cassetta or any of the other Eve, Kugi, you pick it, I have none of that granular function of any of my lights unless I've set up specific automations, or unless I'm using my my voice, right? I can ask her to turn it to 6%, but maybe I just want to like tweak it just a little bit. That's
what I used to do for my bathroom. I take those hue dimmer switches that had 4 nights that each at 25% intervals, and I'd have to do it manually that way. So you'd go into the room and do you want 25%, 50, 75, or like 100, and that was it. And then the bottom, and then each of them also were toggleable. So I had condition set up so that way I could do each like 25% on each of them, and then if you hit them again, then they turn back off. But it would just be so much easier just to have a little dial type thing and a button just like the Aurora. I mean, that groups everything, but like using the Hue app, it's so easy. I literally assign it to my kitchen, and every Hue light in my kitchen is now tied to it, and they're dimmable, turn on and off. It's great.
Yep. And the Hue, double tap and it changes the warmth of it as well. Like, yeah, I run the Hue in my entertainment area just for that. It's just amazing. But part of it is, I think the good thing is that there's enough built into, no matter the hoops that we have to go through, we've been able to achieve what we wanted to achieve with HomeKit, right? So I think that's the foundation is there. So I think that's a good thing, but it's just a matter of kind of hitting the things that we want to see and making it easier to do. I think that's what I want to see from iOS 14 is that user improvement piece. Just make our user experience a little better.
And then just touching on that, some of the basics around the user experience. So there's still a lot of improvements that Apple and the HomeKit team need to deliver. Wallpapers, grouping of rooms, and just making it a little bit easier with the automations as well. Built with some of Apple's core values to make it easy. But it's a product that's grown up, I think, really fast as well, because I was counting the amount of hooks that I've got in my house, and I don't know if anyone saw the picture I put on, and there's that's just one cupboard, and it just shows the pace that the smart home market's moved at. That there's still a lot of things that the manufacturers, but also Apple and Google and Amazon need to catch up on in order to make it easier. Because right now, as guys, where we've used the products because we're reviewing them or because we've got them in the house, a lot of the people that watch the channels also are enthusiasts and are, I would say, on the cutting edge of smart home. And in order to attract the next group of customers who are going to buy the products and people that are going to come in, it's got to be easier for people to enter and see the value of having a smart home. Because I sometimes speak to people and they'll go, why do you need to turn your lights off with your voice or an app? Just press the switch. But until you actually see the value of doing that, it's a hard sell sometimes.
The interoperability thing it's an interesting one. So there's a couple of things there. So number one, do I even care about the Apple Home app at all? Right. I think Eve, you can sync between them all. So if you're using Eve, your wallpapers and those kinds of things can sync. I struggle with the fact that, and we kind of touched on this earlier, there's Apple HomeKit and there's Apple Home, and those are not the same things. So it's a little bit difficult sometimes to explain to everybody that the best way to do something in Apple HomeKit is not to use the Apple app. That's kind of,
if you're using HSV at this point.
Well, you have to use HSV, but if you want to set up any automations that are in any way complex at all beyond motion sensors, then you have to use Home Plus, or you have to use Eve or Controller, or if you want to do anything with video, you have to use HomeCam. And the fact that Aaron Pierce he's almost, I think he needs one more app before he's got the infinity gauntlet of home apps. That's
Home
awesome.
Wall coming soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Home Wall is yes.
Looking forward to that one.
So the fact that that Apple has left that space for iOS and independent developers to be able to innovate in, I think is awesome. Right? That's really cool. I don't know. I don't know that I care if Apple, from the home standpoint, if you can sync the wallpapers. Like, and again, maybe that's just the way that I use it. I don't want to be in the app. I don't want to live in the apps. I personally there's some things I do in the Eve app. I build 90% of my automations in the Home Plus app, unless I'm doing the converted to shortcut thing, in which case then we can do that in the Home app again. But after that, I'm sure I'm like you guys, I have my one little folder on my iPhone, and it's got like 90 different apps in it, and I only touch them, every 4 months to update firmware. So interoperability. I think Apple has done. Did you guys try to do any home automation before getting into the HomeKit camp? I tried a few times. It was a nightmare. I dipped my foot in the pool and ran away screaming because it was impossible to figure out. So I think it's again, we've gotten a lot better, and sometimes getting better and sucking less is just a matter of perspective. If you guys have heard of CHIP, which is the Connected Home over IP, which is based out of the Zigbee working board
Alliance.
So the Zigbee Alliance, and it is supposed to be the great unifier, right? And that's, I think, to your point, John, that why do I need 9 hubs, right? That's a ridiculous thing. But the reason we need 9 hubs is that there's no interoperability built between the vendors. There's no standards for them to be able to build upon, other than HomeKit, Amazon, and Google right now. I think are the only things that are that alliance. So I'm optimistic. On the HomeKit Secure video, I think the other thing that we're going to see on the more cameras is it's going to be interesting to see how many new camera vendors pop up and how cheap they can make them when they don't have to provide their own cloud service in the background anymore.
That interoperability part, I think when we're talking about like this HomeKit Secure video cameras and people just supporting those, one thing Apple is kind of missing there is support for actual firmware updates. Who else gets annoyed by the fact you go into your home app and it says like 8 things need updates, and you have to do all of that through the third-party apps instead of through the home app? And then when you have HomeKit Secure video cameras like the Circle View, and it only works in the home app, like you have no visibility on firmware updates. Logitech just pushes them in the background, and you're just at their whim. They've told me there's no way to manually, from their end or your end, being able to push that firmware update. So if there's something coming down the line, you want that update, you have no way of knowing. You have no way of knowing that it happened, didn't happen, anything like that. Or if it's rebooting something, you just have no control over that. So it's either completely mysterious in the background or a hodgepodge of third-party apps just for updates. So if they're really trying to keep everything in HomeKit, they should have an ability to upload that to Apple and have it pushed out through the home app without, again, relying on any third-party servers for that function.
Until they push a really bad load that bricks everybody's cameras. And then we'll see a change.
But it could be just like an app, the update on your phone, being able to actually see that there's an update available and that it was installed and all of that from within the home app, instead of, like, it can be a mix. It doesn't have to, it definitely should not be what it is now. It should either be all in the background or at least some visibility of being able to manually push those updates through the home app, just like they do for HomePod firmware updates. It should be like that for your accessories. You see there's a firmware update there, and you can do it or schedule to do it automatically, and they're just installed and done.
Just to even know that something happened in case something changes drastically, It would be good to know, hey, okay, that's probably why. Yeah.
Anything else anyone would like to see?
I'm just happy with any attention to HomeKit. Makes me happy. That's all.
I'm with you on that one.
I think it's all cool, man. I'm like a kid in a candy shop, man. It's all fun. I like it.
You know what? Honestly, even if we don't get any attention, the fact of the products that are getting released right now, right? This is the exciting thing. Like if you look at it's camera season, we're all like kids in a candy shop.
Yeah.
Right. You look at what HomeKit cameras, Eufy, Onvis is on there. Who else? Eve, Circle View. Like we've had 5-6 cameras released in the last couple of weeks. We've got our first air purifier. Right, with the Vocal Link coming out. We've John's got the Arc, the first HomeKit heater. Like we're finally these categories that have been sitting empty.
Yeah. Hopefully this year we'll see a video doorbell. Finally.
Well, we have the Yobi.
Yeah.
The Yobi's out.
Yeah.
It doesn't have HSV though. Not yet.
Well, and there was what was the other one? The Robin.
I don't count
that's
that.
what. That's like $700. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's $700.
Yeah,
Is as big as my door.
No, I'm hopeful we'll get something, but even if we don't, honestly, I would rather they don't say anything and fix things in the background.
So that's it, guys. Thanks very much for watching this week. But special thanks to the guests this week. It's been really good having them here to give their insights on what we expect from HomeKit next week. Don't forget, all the links to their channels and social media accounts is in the description below. And give them some love because they're all great guys and they do talk about a lot of great things from time to time. So, have a great weekend, guys. I'll speak to you all soon.
And John, thank you for putting this together and inviting us. That's it's always good to talk about people who care.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
We love HomeKit, and I love this community that's coming together. So It's good stuff.